Hello, my friends. Okay, now I'm going to try to do something that's harder than anything I've ever done in terms of trying to express a coherent idea. It's the hardest thing for me, which is to express why are liberals the problem? Why has that been the main engine that has held up the systemic disenfranchisement and racism by and large? Of course, there's some other factors that are holding up the racism, but why is that just a huge contributor to the systemic disenfranchisement year after year? Now, 160, 70 years after slavery in the USA, why those people, descendants of those slaves, still systemically disenfranchised? And then new immigrant groups that are systemically disenfranchised, like the Mexicans, some of those Mexicans. Less so, right? But why would those people, after 150 years, they couldn't have gotten a job, made a business, and created something good for themselves? A lot of them did, right? So we had a president of the United States that's supposedly partially what racist people would call black, which I don't use those terms, as you know. To me, that's racism. But because he's a person, right? I'm not a racist, right? I know there's a history of racism, but I'm not in this. So let's get to the topic. So why is liberal? Liberal source of the problem. Liberals have three characteristics that I want to mention: fear, a lack of discipline, and a lack of moral strength. So let me bring that on my own shoulders. I come from a liberal family. What am I talking about? Fear. Well, let me bring you into my childhood in the south side of Chicago. Okay? It's wintertime. It's time to go sledding. You bring your sled over to the local hill on Ellis Street and something like 55th Street, 54th Street. And it is a civil war over there. So I'm being raised at home with this, respect, caring, sensitivities and all this stuff. I go over there to children that are at home is drugs and violence and racism, really deep, strong racism, that anti-light skin racism. They say, yo, country boy, you better take what you want. Ain't nobody gonna give you nothing. And all the cussing, right? With constant cussing. And my family, don't say that, don't say that. Care for other people, think of others before yourself. Okay, so this is what we're up against. I go to that sledding hill. They're gonna take my sled. Someone's gonna kick me in the head. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a violent. Just remember now, Chicago, 3,000 people a year shot, 800 of those people dead. That's not even talking about the stabbing. I mean, how many of my friends were stabbed? With a knife deeply into your leg or something, by your groin. I mean, there's blood vessels there. You can die from that stuff. So this was my childhood there. And worse yet is this is the thing. I'm not trying to complain about the crime. I'm trying to say, why are the liberals just like out in left field? How could they be so disconnected from that situation? Because of fear. They don't have a common language. Don't have any way to address that situation. Because if I'm speaking directly to a liberal, this is my question for you. Could you even tolerate, spending an evening with some people that use those cuss words and racist words? Could you make a friendship with them? Because if not, then there's a problem there, a problem that's better to face than to, even if it's scary, and it is scary, it's better to face it, than to just put your children of the liberals just right into the fire of the fury of some civil war. And then you're just all tee hee ha ha ha. We're affirmative action. We're interested in empowering the disenfranchised. But with what, right? With any kind of idea that those people need to speak proper English, and you say, no, don't say proper English. We're all kinds of we're globalization liberals. We're liberals that embrace all cultures. We're multicultural. And then I say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Liberal, in your job, in your school, do you let in anybody into that school, into your job, into your university? Do you let anybody in? Or do you have requirements based on your culture, ethnocentrism, based on your language, your clothing, right? Your religion or lack of religion, or atheism, or whatever, right? That ethnocentrism. So some examples there, at home, my mother would correct my language. Okay, she actually did correct my language. She'd say, I wanted to be black, as they say. That's a racism. But I wanted to join that culture that likes soul food, soul music, rap music, jazz and blues. And I like to talk the way they talk, with their ain't and all that. I ask you a question and their slang. I liked that when I was 12 years old. And I wanted to join that culture. And I tried to. But my mother said, no, don't speak that way. That's not how we speak. And my dad also didn't like those baggy jeans. That's really interesting because that was the style back in the late 70s. But the reason he didn't like the baggy jeans was because he's an immigrant from Austria, and the Turkish people had some pants like that, and they've had problems with Turkish people forever. So that's a totally different subject. Just an example of how when those liberals show their colors, you see that, oh my God, no, they have their own agenda, with their children. They support discipline. And my dad would never give me any money. He said that I have to make all my own money myself. So when I was 12 years old, I was walking dogs before school, after school, 3 dogs. With that money, I bought a motorcycle. So that's like a real conservative kind of approach, right? Don't give them, let them do it for themselves and get confidence that they could do it for themselves. And my dad even said that was his philosophy with me. But then when it comes to these systemically disenfranchised, he lets them just run all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like monkeys. Okay, just let them just, all skin tones, by the way. Don't even think this is about dark and light skin tone. So all those disenfranchised people fear. The liberals got the fear. Ooh, they're going to come get my money, or who knows what. You have to do a personal thing. You have to think, well, what are you really scared of with those people? Because they are scary people, those systemically disenfranchised. They rape. Okay, one of them raped with gunpoint my brother's girlfriend in front of my brother. We broke in with that gun. And yeah, that happens a lot. And my house was broken into 3-4 times. So I just ask you, liberals, please, warm heart is a beautiful thing. But really you have to think about who you are and about your fear for a minute and just try to come to grips with your moral strength, your idea of what is morality, what is ethics. See, I know mine is generosity, discipline, patience, moral strength. Those 4 are my ethics. And then meditation, wisdom, and that's my spiritual practice altogether, all 6 of those. So at any rate, that's me knowing myself. And so I'll tell those people. I just met a Muslim guy, a disenfranchised Muslim guy here in Austria the other day, and I told him straight away about, what I believe in and stuff, and what is racism. I don't have any problems talking about that stuff. Really directly in a caring, loving way, and stuff like that. So at any rate, another example of that liberal sort of irony is I was working on my grandfather's cranberry bog there when I was 12 years old. And there's so much racism there, that anti-dark-skin racism, where they say they're going coon hunting or something at night. It means that they're going to go chase after dark-skinned people. Or they say, this is central Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Or they say, get this is racism. But hey, no more racism than 79th Street, anti-light skin. But listen to this. Two of these light-skinned people get into a fight over there in the cranberry marsh. And they chant, fight, nigger, white, who's the nigger and who's the white, okay? But don't get too taken aback by that, because that would be totally naive, because that's just as much anti-light skin racism on 79th Street in Chicago or 110th Street in New York City, right? And all over the place. But this is just this, and I want to say that the victims of the racism are the children. That's the real Jesus Christ story, persecution of the innocent. It's the children. They don't need this stuff, but the parents just pipe it into them. That's another whole subject, right? So liberals, why are liberals the problem? Because of that fear, lack of discipline, and lack of moral strength, not in the house, but on the street with those systemically disenfranchised people, with going to their houses. So there I am on the cranberry marsh. Here's a great example. And my grandpa actually worked for the President of the United States, 2 of them, for Truman and Kennedy, as the Commissioner of Indian Affairs. And he was also really into this integration, stopping segregation, all that. And I think that him and his wife made the first, or were part of the people who made the first integrated school in Washington, D.C. called Georgetown Day School. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure my family will be watching this too. So, see, I said, I'm sure my family be watching this. See, that's that incorrect English slang associated with the systemically disenfranchised people of the USA, which, I'm not against that. But when I go to a job interview, you'll not hear me say, I be anything. Okay, I'll say, I am, right? You are, he, she, it is, right? Okay, so there I'm on the cranberry marsh hearing this crap. And my best friend has darker skin. in my dear friend Philip Pardo, was my best friend at that time, when I was in like 7th grade, 6th grade. But a lot of friends of mine had darker skin. And I was just thinking, Philip in particular, I don't know if you're out there, if you can even hear anything. I think Philip hit his head really hard and he can't even understand who is who anymore. But if I'm wrong about that, Philip, please comment on this video. And please come see me. I've been looking at Philip. Man, he just forgot who I was. He hit his head so hard, if you can believe that. Nothing to do with racism on that one. That was, I think, a car accident. But at any rate, so there I am, and I'm 12 years old on the cranberry bog, and I say, hey, my best friend, has darker skin. And when I was a young boy, what boys think at that time, really what makes you a valuable person is how fast you could run and how good you could play soccer and things like that. And I'm just like, Philip could run so fast. He could run faster than me, and he plays soccer really good. Yeah, Philip, if you remember any of that. And so then, and I was like, I got nowhere, right? Just fights, because they want to be racist. And I'm like, no, that's not how it is. You misunderstand people. This person, is a valuable person because he can run fast, That's just how young boys think. But at any rate, it didn't work. And then so I came back to my grandpa after work one day and I said, Grandpa, there's this racism out there. And this is the man that's supposed to be so liberal and supposed to be so into all this stuff, like what do they call it? Integration, but stopping segregation and all that. And man, what he said? He said, no, I'm not going to talk to anybody over there about that. He said, that's the work. That's the workplace. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. Really? So I ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Liberal, do you talk about that stuff? I do. Okay? I don't consider myself a liberal because I talk about this stuff. I'm a Buddhist. Okay? There's warm hearts, the whole thing for me. Warm heart. Be warm. Be considerate. And then you got to be wise. What you need to say, to whom, when, how. All that skillful, mean stuff. Okay, so that's a different discussion, but what I wanted to say is those are two examples of liberals who are supposed to be so good, with that kind of warmth and caring, that just pull back. And you say, why? Why would someone with such a warm heart, a good person, who wants to help the poor, just pull back and stop? The whole helping someone to really get a job, speak proper English. Why would that become taboo? They're not bad people. They're afraid. They're afraid to correct the English. And someone say, what you racist motherfucker? I'm not going to cuss because I do want my channel to be good for children. But believe me, I could speak just like those people because I wanted to be black at one point when I was a racist, right? I believed in race and I wanted to be black. That's racism. Oh, yes, because there is no black. We're all one family. There's cultures. I shouldn't have said, I want to be black. What, change my skin color? No, I wanted to just talk a certain way and have certain clothes, listen to certain music, eat certain food, have a certain, cultures more than all those things, kind of how it all glues together, and then the way we kind of relate to each other, sexuality or not, right? How are you conservative? How are you more, adventurous? So that's all I wanted to say today, really, is that's why the liberals have maintained this racism over the years. So does that make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, please comment. Like I said, it's a really loaded subject for me. I'm surprised how calm I was able to kind of describe all this, because for me, it's just been hell, just a hell of having the liberals on one hand be so hypocritical and just inject me, the child, well, not child anymore, into that just fire of hate and anti-light skin, anti-dark skin, all this stuff, and not even taking any, active, proactive position against racism to say that, no, we're not white and black, we're all people. Why am I the only one that said that? Does anybody care to stop racism? Because if you do, and I'm not denying racism, right? When I say no black, no white, I'm saying I am not a racist. I don't look at you that way. That's what I'm saying. Why can't anybody else step up and be like, yeah, I agree? Because if you just do a little bit of thinking, you'll get past that racism. All you have to say is Africa. Stop saying Africans. Who is African? Do you know that's a continent? It's made up of different countries. It's so hard. That's Egypt. Are those the real blacks? Or the Saudi Arabians? Or is it the South Africans? The Afrikaners, right? They're pretty light. Or is it the Congo people or the Nigerians, or is it Zimbabwe, Rhodesia? It used to be called Rhodesia. So, you have to figure all that out and just break it down. Then you see, okay, wait. I don't even think there's any black people, because who would they be? I think that was a racist idea for a certain culture of soul food, of USA, descendants of the slavery. Now, that's a culture, a real culture. We don't have to call it the black people. And then who's the white people? My God, you're going to get lost on that one, because there's a whole world here, with different countries inside of continents. And so who would those people be? So you could say people who conducted slavery, who ran that business, and I'm sure those are all skin tones, And no, I want to talk about the people that were the slave owners of the USA, that's a culture. Okay, very good. You could do that, but don't call them the white people. That's so racist. Why not say those were racists that were grouping people by their skin tone? There you go. Now, and fight that racism. Yeah, fight it. And then, if you can just get that off your back a little bit, off your chest, off your back, then empower the disenfranchised. So turn down the criminal level. Get those people some money. This is your country. That thing. Okay? I hope that all works. I really do. Peace and love to you.